Found out my husband has another family, so I abandoned him in a foreign country without his passport. It doesn't matter how long you have been with someone, you can never know the entire truth about someone or what they're truly hiding. I thought my husband was the absolute perfect partner, and the 6 years that we had been together felt like pure bliss. We met at a work event. Since we have jobs in the same industry, we both travel a lot for our careers, and we both love traveling as a hobby as well. In the first couple of years of our relationship, we traveled together to multiple countries on our shared bucket list, and each trip felt like another chapter in the never-ending romance novel that was our lives. He made me feel cherished and free. We explored the world together, and I never thought anything, or anyone could come between us. But like I said, you never know what's going on in someone else's head, no matter how well you think you know them. It was an average morning the day I found out about his ugly secret. We woke up together at our shared apartment, and he scrolled through his emails while I drank coffee. At one point, he got up to use the bathroom, and I remembered something I needed to look up. I didn't use his laptop often, but I just needed to look up one quick thing, and I figured it would be okay. That's when one email in particular caught my eye. It looked like some sort of document sent by a contact with a woman's name. Something told me to just click on it. The document was some sort of children's elementary school form that my husband needed to e-sign. I was confused. Whose child was this? Why did my husband need to sign paperwork for some random kid? It just gave me a weird feeling, and I decided to open his laptop back up after he left to get us breakfast that morning. I kept snooping. In the next half hour, I uncovered his entire second secret life that he had been hiding for about 4 years. It turns out that 2 years into us dating, he had cheated on me and gotten the other woman pregnant. She gave birth, and since then, he had been visiting them regularly and telling me he was on a work trip every time he was flying out to see them. I felt like I was watching some sort of horror movie when I eventually found his baby mother's Facebook and found years of family photos of them all together, smiling. I looked at his poop-eating grin in the photos, and it felt like he was laughing at me. I couldn't believe he had planned out this entire fake double life of his and managed to lead me on successfully for years. I wanted to strangle him the moment he walked back in the door, but a bigger part of me wanted to show him that I could plan too, I could lie too. So even though it unalived me, I acted like everything was fine that morning. I even suggested we start planning our next trip. He was more than glad to, and by the end of the day I had booked our tickets to a week's stay in Morocco, a place I had been, but he hadn't. It was so hard for me to smile in my cheating husband's face. He was nothing but a worm and a liar to me, but I needed to make sure my plan went smoothly, so I kept playing the happy wife. The very first night in Morocco, I got him super drunk and he passed out pretty early. That's when I packed up every single thing in our hotel room, including his passport, and I left him there alone, while I took a taxi to the airport. I left him there, without his wallet, passport or phone. It's been about 2 weeks now and I haven't heard from him. I wonder if his baby mama is concerned about him. Too bad. I hope he's stuck there, feeling afraid, alone, and abandoned, just like me. My boyfriend threw my puppy against the wall during an argument. Please help. My boyfriend is ex-military. I always knew that he had extreme anger issues, but never in my life would I think that he would take it out on an innocent animal like I watched him do the other night. I feel completely traumatized after witnessing him abuse my 3-month-old puppy in the way he did, and I have no idea what to do next. I feel completely trapped and terrified. As I said, my boyfriend has always had some anger issues, and he usually gets angry at me when he thinks other men are checking me out in public or he sees that random guys have followed me on Instagram. We have had so many fights where I have tried to assure him that I would never cheat on him and he is the only man in my life. But he always ends up screaming at me and calling me a liar and saying that I like the attention of other guys, and if I didn't, I would dress differently or delete my Instagram. Over the 8 months that we've been dating, I have gotten so used to his outbursts and his constant screaming. Even though I know it's totally unhealthy, I know for sure that I'm in a toxic relationship. I want to leave him, but I am truly scared of him. He is ex-military and an extremely strong, connected man. I fear that if I leave him he will track me down and hurt me physically, or worse. We don't live together, but he spends a lot of time at my apartment. 2 weeks ago I adopted a German Shepherd puppy. I remember seeing him at the shelter and instantly falling in love with him. Ever since I brought him home, my boyfriend has been complaining about him. He says that he stinks, he's too loud, and that I should have never gotten a dog. I love my boyfriend, but I love my puppy in a different way since he is just an innocent little animal, and it's killing me that I brought this innocent baby into a dangerous situation. The other night my boyfriend was screaming at me because he had noticed that I had a new male Instagram follower. He was throwing and breaking things usual, and insisting that I didn't care about him because I wasn't changing my ways. I really was just exhausted since I had a long day. Honestly, I was just exhausted with him. I wasn't really engaging in the fight, I was just laying on my bed staring at the ceiling, trying to dissociate. I guess this only made him more upset because the next thing I know he picked up my puppy so hard and fast that the poor thing literally squealed out of fear. My boyfriend screamed in my face, "So is this what I have to do for you to give a F?" And to my horror, he hurled my innocent baby directly at the wall. My poor baby made another squealing noise, and I will never be able to forget the way that he ran away from us into a corner, shaking and whimpering. I started crying and trying to console my puppy, but he was still scared since my boyfriend was still in the room yelling at us both. I just cowered in the corner with my dog until my boyfriend eventually left us alone and went to sleep. I'm scared for me and my puppy. I want to get as far as possible as I can for my boyfriend. He's a monster and I cannot believe that I allowed him to take out his anger on my poor innocent baby boy. I know now that I need to do everything I can to protect myself and my new baby, before it's too late. My mother-in-law kidnapped my baby and has taken him overseas. I have never been through anything as terrifying as this in my entire life, and I'm scared I will never see my newborn baby again for as long as I live. My mother-in-law has always been an iffy character. She struggles with a few different mental issues and she has been on and off bipolar medication for her entire life. She and my husband were always very close, and he tried everything he could to take care of his mom. Now, I wish he had prioritized me and our child over his batch T crazy mom, and I feel completely betrayed by my husband. We had our baby boy about 4 months ago. He is the sweetest, happiest baby anyone could ask for. When I came home from the hospital, I was shocked to see that my husband had let his mother move in while I was giving birth to our son. She had been staying there for about a week. I want to say that I couldn't believe my husband would move her in without telling me, but looking back now, he was always putting his mother's needs over mine. As I said, my mother-in-law struggles with bipolar disorder, and I have personally watched her have multiple public mental breakdowns in the 4 years that I've been part of my husband's family. I was so nervous when I came home with my newborn son and saw that we could be stuck in the house with a woman who I knew was unstable. I should have listened to my instincts and left the same day I came home. But I was weak, and now it's too late. It's just too effing late. I had only been home for about a week when my mother-in-law started talking about bringing my baby to her homeland, so she could show him to her extended family. She was talking manically and I asked my husband to please calm her down and explain to her that the baby needed to be at home, safe with me. A newborn shouldn't be flying at all, let alone overseas. My husband reassured me that he had spoken with his mother, but she continued to act strangely around me and my baby. Until finally, 2 days ago I woke up in the morning to find my son's crib empty and my mother-in-law nowhere to be found. There was something deep inside me that said, "This is your fault, you could have stopped this," when I saw my son's empty crib. I called my husband in hysterics and told him she had taken him. He didn't even believe me till he came home himself and saw them both gone. It took almost a full day, but finally, my husband managed to get in touch with his mom, and sure enough, she had packed a bag and stolen our baby in the middle of the night to take him back to her home country. I listened to my manic mother-in-law on my husband's speakerphone, saying how much the baby was loving his home country. It was obvious my mother-in-law was disconnected from reality when she started trying to convince us to pick up and move to her home county so she and my baby never needed to leave their real home. Listening to the call felt surreal and nightmarish, and I still can't believe my newborn baby is somewhere across the globe, in the care of a dangerous lunatic.
My loser sister-in-law gave my 13-year-old son a tattoo, so I got her arrested. Look, I love my wife with all my heart, but her sister is by far one of the most idiotic, pathetic people on this planet. I don't even understand how she and my wife came from the same family since her sister is such a waste of space and a complete failure in life. She is only 20 years old but she has never had a job and has an ongoing nasty drug problem. My wife is a saint and she loves her sister dearly despite her flaws. She gives her sister money and lets her stay with us whenever she needs, even though I, despite her sister, love my wife more than anything and I try to support all her choices. Now after everything that's happened, I realize just how wrong I was to let my wife keep enabling her sister's bullshit behavior. My wife and I have a 13-year-old son. He's a great kid and he loves his aunt even though she's a dirtbag. To be fair, she was always pretty kind to our son and he genuinely cares for her. My wife would tell me that her sister said she felt like my son was one of the only lights in her life, so I never let my hate for her separate the two from each other since they had a close family tie. I was an idiot to think this, and I should have put my son before her feelings. I reached my limit this week when my wife came to me and told me she thinks our son had gotten a tattoo. I thought she was joking at first since Hess just a kid, but after confronting my son about it, he fessed up and said that his Auntie Kay had given it to him as a gift since she had just bought a tattoo gun off of Amazon. The tattoo is small, it's a tiny football on my son's thigh, but it's a real, permanent tattoo that she did in our garage without my or my wife's consent. I was livid when I found out. Even though everyone was home, I marched into the living room where my sister-in-law was lying down watching TV. I had found her machine in the garage and I picked it up and threw it hard at her stomach. My sister-in-law got up and started cursing at me and I gave it right back to her. I told her she had no right to permanently alter my son's body like that and that I had enough of her crap. I told her to pack her poop and get the hell out of my house before I called the cops. My wife was crying and trying to get in between us, but I had listened to her enough, and now it was my turn to deal with her sister. Her sister refused to leave, so I went through with calling the cops. I told them my sister-in-law had abused my minor son and was trespassing on my property. The entire time my wife sobbed in the background. The night ended with my sister-in-law lying on my front lawn, face down in handcuffs, as the cops read her rights. Since that night my son, who witnessed everything, and my wife have been refusing to talk to me. I'm going to give them some time to cool off, and even though things are tense I'm proud of myself for finally putting my foot down when it came to my trashy sister-in-law.
People who have been kidnapped, what was it like? I was around 18 years old, we'd been dating for about 8 months and I broke up with him because my parents were treating me differently and I didn't like it. It put too much strain on both my boyfriend and I, and my parents and I's relationship, and I couldn't take it. Broke up with him one night, and about a week later he showed up at my parents' house wanting to talk to me. My mom answered the door. I didn't want any part of it, so she told him to go away. He got belligerent and eventually left, so she called the police. He was pulled over and given a warning, then they let him be. Dad was at work, Mom took sister somewhere, and I was playing Mario Party 8 on my Wii at home. There was a knock at the back door and I looked through the glass from the couch and he was there looking and trying to talk to me. Again, I didn't want any part of it, so I ignored him. He got mad and shouldered the door. The frame cracked. He did it again and the door burst open. I said, "What the F are you doing?" And he grabbed me and put me over his shoulder and carried me outside. I figured he was just going to put me in the front seat and leave with me, but then he popped the trunk of his car with the remote and I realized what was going to happen. I twisted a little, which surprised him, and he dropped me, but then he put me in a headlock where I couldn't breathe and I stopped struggling. He tossed me in the trunk and shut it and drove off. At this point, I was doing everything I could to get out of the trunk, so I started kicking the back of the seats to get out. I eventually got one open enough to stick my head through to get some air. It was in August, and the temperatures outside were riding 95 degrees, so inside the trunk was about 110. I got my head out and could finally breathe. He had calmed down a bit, and I knew he just wanted to talk to me, so he didn't really freak when I was able to climb into the back seat. When he was putting me in the trunk, the neighbor kids were outside and they saw what was happening and ran inside to tell their parents. Parents called the police, police called my mom, and my mom was doing 95 down the highway to get home. Ex-boyfriend drove me an hour and a half away to an old camp he used to go to, and we talked for a while. He then took me to Pizza Hut because I said I was hungry. I remember wondering why no one was concerned that I was waiting for a pizza without shoes or socks on. Because no one said anything, I figured my parents hadn't realized what had happened yet. Little did I know, an Amber Alert had already been issued. Anyways, he decided he didn't want to go to jail, so he was going back to his house to get his shotgun. When he got there, the cops were waiting for him and tried to taser him. They missed and he jumped back in his car and did a backwards U-turn. He started driving through the city at speeds of 60 to 85 miles per hour. If you've never been in a high-speed police pursuit, let me tell you, it's a rush. So much adrenaline. Anyways, he was going to get on the highway, but the police had it blocked off with spike strips, so he turned onto a back road that dead-ended. He ended up crashing into a tree. I was in the front seat by this time. The cops swarmed the car, pulled us both out, and since they didn't realize who we were, cuffed us both and put us in separate cop cars. Once everything was situated, they uncuffed me and put me in a police SUV and transported me back to the police station in my city. Parents and sister were there, freaked out, found out I was okay. The whole ordeal lasted around 10 hours. Ex got 4 years and is now out of jail in a halfway house.
My girlfriend is begging me to give up my Ivy League scholarship so we can continue dating. I am being faced with an amazing opportunity, but I don't know whether to choose between my academic career or the love of my life. I would do anything for my girlfriend, but I am feeling extremely nervous to simply give up the future that I've been working for since I was 13. My girlfriend and I have been dating since we were 15, we're both 18 now and in the middle of applying to colleges. Ever since I was 13 I knew I wanted to be a scientist since it was my favorite subject. Ever since then I've worked tirelessly in all my science classes and done any type of scientific extracurricular that public school had to offer. My girlfriend and I met in our high school science club. I was the president and she had just moved to the area and was trying to join clubs to make new friends. We fell in love in only a couple of months, and we've been together since then. I truly believe she is my soulmate and it's only making this decision harder. My girlfriend doesn't really understand my passion for science since academics have never really been her thing. Don't get me wrong, she is a smart girl, but I have been applying to Ivy League colleges and she has said that she's fine just going to community college after we graduate. She pretended to be supportive of me, but now I see that she never really wanted me to get accepted into the colleges that I wanted, since they're all far away. Either way, last week I received my acceptance letter in the mail from my top college, Princeton. My hands were shaking as I read the letter, and I saw my dad cry for the very first time when I told him the news. It felt like a dream come true until I told my girlfriend about the letter. I remember being so excited on the phone telling her about how they were offering me a full scholarship, but all she said was "yeah. That's great." And ended the call pretty fast. The next time we saw each other in person, my girlfriend broke down crying and said that she couldn't deal with the fact that I would be so far. She said she felt bad about asking, but then she looked at me and asked me to turn down my scholarship and go to school in the state, so that I could remain close to her. I don't even know how to describe what I felt when she was saying all this, up until that day I saw her as my loving, supportive girlfriend. But I guess that's not who she is. She's always known how much a career in science means to me and how badly I've wanted this the entire time she's known me. I don't understand how she could ask me to give it up like it was nothing. I don't want to believe that she's being selfish. I think she's just in love, just like me. I'm feeling incredibly torn. One half of me knows that I would hate myself if I gave up this opportunity, but what if this girl is meant to be my wife? What if she's my future instead of Princeton? What is the most terrifying thing you've experienced? I have a big family. One day we were all hanging out in the family farm, and decided to spend the night. We just had girls in one room, and boys in another, and everything was going fine. It was around 4 in the morning when I woke up to one of my cousins standing by the door. The hallway light was on, and shining on my face, so I could only see his outline, but I knew it was Josh. I asked him what he was doing, and if he needed something, but he didn't move, and my eyes were starting to adjust. I could see more details, but I couldn't see his face. I was really sleepy and confused. When the hallway lit up, Josh's shape, everything disappeared. It was just darkness, and an open door. I knew I was awake, because I was sitting down. I decided to get one of my roommate's cousins up, and go check on the boys. Josh had an allergy to something, he didn't want to bother anyone, so he took a Benadryl and went to bed. When I checked on him he wasn't breathing. We got my uncle up, he gave Josh some heavy-duty medication, and we took him to a hospital. Everyone was fine. Josh told me he knew I was insomniac, and while he was suffocating, unable to make a noise, he kept praying I couldn't sleep, and decided to check on him.